Everybody, Colin here from Local Enterprise Broadcasting. I know I haven't released a video in a while, and it's for a reason. Had a lot of things happen in life, so I hope I haven't lost too many of my viewers. Maybe we'll get you back. But this video is going to be about my new little project. And for those of you out there just clicking on the link for the description, welcome to the channel. Thank you. Be sure to check out some of the other content. Maybe you'll get a laugh out of it or be entertained one way or another. But this one's kind of outside my normal content, going into a passion that I really had as a kid and got away from in my 20s, and kind of got my spark relit, so here I am. So this is going to be a review for those of you out there who are thinking about getting in the market for a motorcycle, or my particular motorcycle, the YZ426, the second generation of the race motorcycle 4-strokes. This will be a quick little review on it, so we'll have a look at it here in my garage. So there it is. So not a terrible machine at all. It's actually really clean. I picked it up for a pretty good price, and it's a little dirty right now. But some of the things you guys are going to want to know about these bikes in particular, if you are thinking about the 426 and maybe you've heard some of the myths about them, some of the goods, the bads. I guess I can just go over it and confirm some of the things for you. First off, myth number one, these bikes are notoriously hard to start. That can be true if you don't know the starting procedure and your motorcycle isn't set up correctly, meaning the carburetor is probably not jetted right, or you don't have the right spark plug. Those two things are the most common. Now, the least, but, well, I don't know, probably now with older bikes it could be equally as common. But another reason that these bikes become hard to start, let's say you have it dialed in, you got the right plug, your carb's tits, and it's still hard to start, chances are your timing chain has stretched. Even though you have an auto adjustment on there, basically the timing chain tensioner is supposed to be self-adjusting for the most part, but they have their limits, and sometimes the chain guide also wears. So these are the other thing you gotta keep in mind. Those can cause the hard to start issues. But for the most part, once you learn how to start these bikes, if people bitch about them being hard to start, they don't know what they're doing. Which brings me to my second point. The YZ426, one of the reasons they're becoming popular again is because A, they are tractors. And that's kind of ironic because they pretty much weigh as much as one, which we'll get into the negatives here, but that's the first one. They're notoriously reliable. They're bulletproof engines for the most part, especially the 2001 and 2002 years. The early ones, they had a problem with their crank pin backing off the balancer. So the 2001 to 2002 years are probably the best they ever made. Plus you get the titanium valves and numerous other things. But yeah, this one in particular has some upgrades, mostly cosmetic. This would be one of the good functioning upgrades, a steering stabilizer. Part of the negatives, those of you that have never ridden one of these motorcycles, you just understand they get pretty crazy when they get up in their power band. They really like to get squirrely. So these steering stabilizers, especially at high speed and soft terrain, definitely a bonus. The next upgrade would be the White Brothers exhaust, which is a shame because they're out of business now, so I'm pretty much screwed for replacement parts. But man, is this thing loud. I'll show you here in a minute. It's about it. From what I can tell, the internals are pretty much stock. But all in all, it was a very clean machine. The lighting in here is terrible right now, I know. Check this out, the radiators. Look at, not a ding on them. Some of the fins, but what I mean is right here, the side profile, they're straight as an arrow, which means either these radiators have been replaced, or the bike hasn't been ridden too hard, it hasn't been beat up too much. Didn't have like a motocross wannabe on it that probably had more ambition than skill. So the bike has probably spent more time on its wheels than its side, so that's definitely good. The YZ426 is a monster in low-end power. The things that you can really do with this power band is kind of really unique to this bike and this bike alone. I rode a lot of 450s that around the track, they're probably definitely going to be a faster machine unless you build your 426 to keep up with that type of racing. But they really aren't as much fun on out in the desert. I found this bike, this particular bike, I love it. It's a good universal machine. So that's part of the pluses of this. What I think are the pluses of it. They're affordable. Parts are still available everywhere in the aftermarket and in some of the factory. A lot of these, the engine family basically is the same in the 450 as it is in the 426 and even the old YZ400. It's pretty much the same concept. Engineering wise, not a lot changed. So not all the parts are interchangeable, of course, but there actually are some. So that's kind of interesting. But just the feel of the pants ride, the scariness of the power band, the 426 has just got it. They're just animals. They're a lot of bike, and so that's the thing to keep in mind. If you don't like big powerful machines, don't get one. If you don't want to learn how to do the hot start procedure and the cold start procedure and the whatever starting procedure, because yes, they are temperamental. Once you get to know them, then it's like no big deal. The other option is upgrading the cam and going with an auto decompressor. But me personally, I've ridden 426s with auto decompressors, and they're kind of a bitch to start once you do that, because you can't start them the same way like you do with the auto decompressor. So it tends to, or with the mechanical one, I should say. So you tend to have a stronger leg because you're going to actually have to kick it through the compression cycle, whereas with the stock setup, you get it halfway through, you get it to the compression cycle, and then you kick it +1 over, and then you wail on it. And if you're in the right spot, you can pretty much do it with your hand. So I'm not sure if I want the upgraded cam, I really do, just for the peppiness, but I don't know if I like that auto decompressor. I really don't. So I'm weird. I know I'm weird. So yeah, but here, to show you why I went with this bike more than anything. Obviously, it's clean as hell, but it hasn't been started all day. It's cold. It's about 22 degrees in my garage. No, maybe probably closer to 30, 28, 29, 30, right around there degrees in my garage right now. And so just to show you, it is cold, so we'll pull the choke. Alright, and then see if we can find a spot to set up my phone. I'm not sure if I can. I think that'll work. Let's see. Will that work? No. This will. No, I guess that won't either. Nope. Stand by, folks. I'm trying to rig this to where you guys can see what I'm doing without the phone falling. There we go. Okay, so that'll work. So, basically, this bike, reason I bought it, found my compression stroke. You just pull this little lever here, ding, go down just until it releases, come all the way back up to the top, pump the throttle. And there we have it. So Some things to look for if you're buying one of these. Like I said, if it has the stock decompressor right there, the auto decompressor, then when you are on the compression stroke, okay, so there's the first, you should not be able to push it through. It's a good sign that the motor is probably at least decent enough to have some fun with. Second, once it starts, when these things are cold, even when they were brand new off the showroom floor, if it was colder than 60 degrees out, you'd get a little bit of white smoke when you first start them. Nothing uncommon. But if they're always smoking once they're reaching operating temperature, you got a wore out motor. So keep in mind that. Another thing to look for is these radiators. These bikes from the factory were kind of on the limit of their cooling efficiency. They actually overheat pretty easily. So make sure those radiators aren't gummed up and beat up and banged up, because you're going to overheat your motor and you'll be in a whole other thing. Another thing to listen for is feel your clutch, or listen for sounds coming out of here and sounds coming out of here. Alright? If you have a 2000, early 2000 and older 426 or YZ400 or the WR versions of either of those bikes, and the crank hasn't been upgraded with something new, you run the risk of the counterbalance shaft making a god-awful racket. Go ahead and look it up online. There's plenty of videos about it. It is a simple fix if you're comfortable ripping these bikes apart down to the cases. Which brings me to my final point about this bike. If you're in the market for a 426 and you're looking at them, you're like, man, these bikes are really cheap, and you ride it and you love it, be advised. If you are not mechanically inclined, don't own one, because they're not going to offset their value. You know, you can pick them up real cheap, and more than likely, if you have to pay somebody else to maintain this bike, you're probably going to be spending more than you want to. You might as well just go buy a brand new 450. I chose not to, because I've always had a real soft spot in my heart for these bikes. I don't know what it is about them. Maybe because I was a teenager when they first came out, and you know how we all are. We love the things that we loved when we were kids. So I always wanted one. But more importantly, I did not have the money to fork over for a 450. Most of these 450s where I'm at, my area, my market, my zip code, they're going for about $4,000 or better. You can get the 2 or 3 years newer version of this bike, which when they switch to the 450, still a steel frame. But the problem is they have a 4-speed gearbox. You can get those things cheap as shit. You can get them cheaper than these things, actually. No kidding. I mean it. You really can. But who the hell wants a 4-speed gearbox? I don't care how tall that first gear is. Yeah, no one wants it. So my next choice would be get the 450 with the aluminum frame, like the earlier years that were still carbureted. But they're still like $5,000, $4,500 to $5,000. So I didn't have that kind of money. My budget was more like $1,000, and you can pick up these things for around that price all day long. Just be advised, a lot of them are beat up by then. So in this case, it was actually a really good bike. It's been very well maintained and taken care of, and I locked out. So the suspension, everything on it's been redone. Guy had receipts for all of it. Carb had been gone through, of course. I never trust that, because I know a lot of quote professional mechanics that still don't know a damn thing about carburetors. So even like when I bought the bike, it's great. I got a better price on it because the accelerator pump wasn't working, so it would hesitate real bad and it'd even die if you pulled the throttle too hard. So I knew it was a fuel issue, so I didn't really care, you know, but I pretended like it was, you know, something serious. Why not, right? But other than that, I didn't really talk the guy down too much. Actually, I didn't talk him down at all. I just made him throw in some extra gear parts and stuff in his garage that I really wanted. So he did, and he even delivered the bike for me. So, you know, in a way, I think he was happy. He got rid of the bike for what he was asking. I felt I got a good machine for the price, and it still leaves me for about $1,000 to throw into it, have some fun over the next few years. You know, this is not going to be right away. I'm actually going to ride the bike, for the most part, the way it is, you know. It's clean. And I found that when you add power, you lose reliability. Go figure. Parts wear out faster when you apply more heat and pressure to them. So, yeah, all in due time. But peak horsepower expected out of this bad boy by the time I'm done with it is I want 60 rear wheel horsepower. And the trick is going to be to put it to the ground. I don't want it all on the bottom end. In a way, it's probably going to act more like a 450 when it's done. But I'm hoping I can still retain some of that grunt low end that the 426s are just known for. These bikes will wheelie for days. I don't know what it is about them. And this bike actually is running some pretty tall gearing. I've actually got 48 in the rear and a 14 up front. Stock gearing on this is, I believe, 1449. So someone dropped a tooth in the rear. Just funny because on second to third gear, if it has any traction and you crack that throttle, yeah, the front end's coming right up. It just, and you could even shift once you hit the balance point. You can just shift through the wheelie. It's so unbelievably stable on its rear wheel. It's kind of creepy. It's almost like it was designed to do it. I don't know that, but like I said, having ridden newer 450s, and I can't say one's faster than the other, because honestly, you change a couple sprockets and, you know, it's really unfair to say which bike actually physically has more power or feels more powerful. But to me personally, I think the 426 is more like tantamount to your muscle car type of power, whereas the 450s now are kind of like your turbo Porsches. They're just a lot smoother. They're a lot friendlier to you out of turns. You can crack the throttle wide open. They won't stall. So the new 450s definitely got some advantage. That, and they're light, dude. Like riding this thing around the track, probably gonna wear you out. But out in the desert, open country, like what I ride, thing does all. I think the 426 is the universal great bike. You can switch out a few sprockets, just run a couple different setups on it, and you've got a totally different responding machine. It's like I said, I can't stress enough, it's a very good universal bike. But like I said, I can also stress enough, if you don't want to work on shit, then don't buy one. These bikes are getting up there in age. You're going to be working on them. But once you set them all back, you replace everything. Dude, they're workhorses, man. If you really think about it, these machines haven't been made for almost 20 years now. I mean, getting close. And you still see tons of them out in the desert shredding. But you gotta love the bike. I'm just gonna say, I do. I love these bikes, and I'm very proud of it. And by the time it's done, a lot of people are gonna wonder, hey, what the hell is that thing? You know, what's that? You know, early 450 or 426? You know, they're not gonna know. So I'm just gonna get a bumper sticker on it that says, yes, it's a 426. No, you can't ride it. But hey, thanks for joining me again, coming back, watching this long run my suck video. I'm sure most of you have already turned it off. But it's okay. If you hung on with this long, thank you very much. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel and check your email. Maybe you'll get notifications of a new video. Maybe you won't. I don't know. A lot of my other content's been pulled because apparently I have controversial viewpoints. Whatever. So I figure I'm going to start doing dirt bike stuff. Local enterprise broadcasting will start broadcasting my hobbies. And I got to tell you, if you're getting out of a bad relationship or and you're kind of heartbroken, go get you one of these things. Maybe it doesn't have to be a 426, but 2 wheels definitely replaces 2 legs. Something fierce. And it vibrates too. Anyways, so that's true for both men and ladies. So I guess that's it. Signing off here. Oh, big announcement. I'll actually have one of the normal type of shows coming out. My buddy Fabiano Carpinelli is a ski instructor, and he will be out here. Just kind of a point. Him and I are politically completely opposed to one another, so it ought to be interesting. It's nice to have a counterpoint, and we can go back and forth about some of the topics: sports, motorcycles, skiing, snowboarding. Should be a pretty damn good episode. And yeah, might be some intoxicant involved, may not be, I don't know. So yeah, we're done. Thanks guys for tuning in. and 20 minutes exactly later.